Hello there, duelists. It's been a hot minute since I had a deck profile. Sometimes you just get caught up in the inferno of life. Alright, enough punnies. We've got Infernoids on the playmat today. Infernoid came out in 2015, and when they first came out, they were kind of like the first archetype that ever had no normal summonable monsters. That all changed with the set after they got released, and the thing that made them actually relevant, they've kind of been an underrated deck for almost their entire lifetime and have had sprinklings of support since, a Decatron length is never going to be a bad thing for every single monster in the archetype, right? So let's check out the hot combos that Infernoids can provide. Okay, I'm on to the Infernoids, right, so there's an absolute load of one-offs and stuff like that here, so I'm bound to butcher one of them. But here we go. I'm going to try and rattle through these at a fair pace. So, 3 Infernoid Decatron. I think it's the only Infernoid they're actually playing. I'm trying to get that in an actual frame. That's 3 of. It's the only normal summonable Infernoid monster up to this point. When it's normal or special summoned, you can send an Infernoid monster from your deck to the graveyard, accept itself, and it becomes that card basically. So it becomes the same name, same level, and it's got the same effect. And that's why we're kind of playing, those mill cards that can pluck out a normal summonable monster, because this is the heart and soul of the deck, in my opinion. From there, we're playing 1 Pirmais, 1 Antra, and 1 Harmadik. So, Pirmais and Antra, they're banishing, in fact, all of the level up to level 4, you have to banish 1 Infernoid monster from your graveyard to summon it, and it has to be from the hand. From level 5 to level 8 is 2 Infernoid monsters, and that can be from the hand or from the graveyard. And then finally, the higher levels above level 8 is banish 3 to summon it. That's also from the hand or from the graveyard. So you really want a lot of Infernoid monsters in the graveyard in order to be able to summon. So they've all got additional effects, and they've all got another common effect, which is everything up to level 8 can tribute a monster to banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. And then above level 8 got a secondary effect, which I'll get to when we come to it. So I'm not going to comment on the DD Crow-like effect or the special summoning conditions now. So, Antra, that can target a face-up card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. Pirmais can target 1 set card on the field and shuffle it into the deck. Harmadik can target a spell trap card on the field, a monster on the field and destroy it. It can't attack the turn that it's summoned, and that is the same for Patrulea. So this can target a spell trap card on the field, destroy it, but it can't attack the turn it uses. From there, we're running 1 Sjette, 1 Seitemas, and 1 Attondel. So Sjette is pretty useless, but he's level 6, which comes in pretty clutch for some of the traps that we're playing. When he attacks, you can banish 1 monster from your opponent's extra deck, which is their choice, so it's pretty garbage. Seitemas, if it battles at the end of the battle phase, you can banish 1 card on the field, which is okay. It's not bad. It doesn't target, which is great, but it comes up pretty rare and it's pretty slow. Attondel is all equally kind of meh. He can basically just attack twice. From there, we've got the big boys. So we've got 2 Devyaty and 2 Onuncu, which is pretty standard, I feel. So these 2 have got effects when they are special summoned. So Devyaty can blow up all the spell and trap cards on the field, and Onuncu can destroy all monsters on the field. Devyaty, apart from Void spell and traps, actually, just to mention that. And from there, they've kind of got the inverse of their special summoning destruction in terms of negation. So Devyaty can tribute a monster in order to negate a monster effect, and Onuncu can tribute a monster in order to negate a spell or trap. From there, running a few hand traps, so running 2 Effect Veiler, so this is to climb up using the Vibrax, kind of line, and then we're running 3 Psy-Framegear Gamma, and the reason we're running Gamma is because it can't be normal summoned set, and the 1 driver goes along with that. Driver can be normal summoned set, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it doesn't conflict with the special summon requirements of the Infernoids, which I realise now I failed to mention. You can only special summon them if you control effect monsters that total less than the levels of level 8. Damn, right, okay, so we got through the main section. Let's be done with that. On to the next one. Okay, so on to the spells and traps. So first up, we've got 3 Void Vanishment. So this is kind of like our search card. So you can discard a card to add another Void spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. Try and again get those in frame. Terrible, nice. And then you can't special summon or normal summon monsters except Infernoid monsters for the rest of the turn. So that kind of locks you in, but sometimes it's kind of necessary for the consistency boost. Also, if your Inferno monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send the Void Vanishment to the graveyard in order to banish the monsters that we're battling. From there, running 3 Void Imagination, which is pretty crux. It's a huge blowout card, so you kind of want one of Void Imagination, Void Vanishment, or then the next card. So Void Imagination, everything that's above level 1, every Infernoid monster that's above level 1 becomes level 1, and any battle damage they inflict is halved. And then also you can send it to the graveyard to kind of poly. So you can either use cards from your hand or from your field, normally, or if your opponent controls an extra deck monster and you do not, you can send up to 6 cards from your deck to the graveyard, which is absolutely crazy because it just gives you huge resource. From there, we're running 3 Lair of Darkness. So this works really well with some, all of the Infernoid monsters basically. So everything becomes dark, and you contribute, once per turn you contribute an opponent's dark monster instead of your own. So that DD Crow-like effect becomes tribute one of your opponent's monsters to banish one of your opponent's cards from their graveyard, which is absolutely crazy. And then during the end phase of the turn player, if there was any tributed monsters, they get tokens up to the number of tributed monsters, which can come in, I suppose it can come up, I suppose. From there, running 3 Monster Gate. So, tribute 1 monster, activate cards from the top of your deck until you get a monster that can be normal summoned, and then special summon. Everything else goes to the graveyard. And again, that works quite well because Monster Gate works in tandem with Lair of Darkness. So you can tribute your opponent's monster to activate that monster gate. And finally, we've got the reasoning, so declare a level, special summon it. Basically, it doesn't matter what level. I mean, if they understand what deck you're playing, they're always going to pick level 1 because they never want the Decatron to go off. But it doesn't really matter because it's about fueling that graveyard. And then in terms of traps, we're running 3 Infinite Permanents. So this is a hand trap that is not a monster, so it does not conflict with the Monster Gate or the Reasoning. And then finally, we're running a Void Feast. So this is one of the newer-ish cards for Infernoids. So you can send a Void Spell Trap card from your hand or face it from your field to the graveyard, especially up to 3 Infernoid monsters from your deck whose total level equals 8. And that's why we're running that Sjette, because we want a double Decatron. Cool, right, okay, on to the extra deck. Okay, right, so the final kind of deck profile section, shall we say. So 2 Infernoid Tiara. So this has to be fusion summoned using Onuncu, Devyaty, and then 1 or more Inferno monsters. Then when it's summoned, it gains effects based on the number of materials that are used with different names. So 3 or more is send 3 cards from your extra deck to the graveyard. 5 or more is activate the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. 8 or more is both players can return 3 banished cards to their graveyard, and then the final 10 or more is both players discard their entire hand. So they get increasingly harder, but kind of Void Imagination turns on the first 2, so that's not bad. 10 is just about possible in this build, but you're just never going to get there. So it's mostly about that first send 3 from your extra to the graveyard effect. And for that, we're playing 3 Elder Entity in frame again, nicely done. So send this, and it pops a card on the field. So the Tiara becomes pot 3. I've also got Psy-Frame Omega, so this can be used either if your opponent gets ashes, kind of like a Reasoning or whatever it is, or a Monster Gate. You can use Omega from that. Also, sometimes your opponent doesn't have 3 cards to pop, and I quite like sending Omega because it means you can recycle some of the entities back into the extra deck for a reuse later. From there, playing a couple of Link 1s. So there's 1 Link Rebo. It doesn't come up that often, but sometimes you just need to get kind of like your Decatron or whatever it is into the graveyard. 1 Gravity Controller, because you need to get that Tiara off your main board in order to lose the levels that are on board, so that you can start summoning your Inferno monsters again. And then onto some Link 2s, so we've got Nightmare Cerberus and Nightmare Phoenix, and then we've got Psy-Frame Lord Lambda. So Phoenix and Cerberus kind of just like deal with problems as and when they come up. Psy-Frame Lord Lambda, it's kind of generic Link 2 that can use any monsters with, and it also turns on your Gamma, so it's quite useful. From there we've got the Halqifibrax package, so we've got one Halqifibrax and then Selene, Queen of the Master Magician, so Halqifibrax summons Effect Veiler, and Effect Veiler can go to Selene. You've got to be a little bit careful because sometimes you don't have the required spells in the graveyard in order to activate Selene's effect, so you have got to be a bit more wary than you might do with like pendulums or something else. Then for another link through, we've got Equimax. So Equimax is 2 effect monsters, including a link monster, and he gains attack equal to the monsters he points to. So what you can do is beat in hugely with Equimax, and then tribute it off, because the problem with Equimax is that the monster it points to can't attack. So you can make him point at 2 Infernoid monsters, swing in with Equimax, do a huge amount of damage, and then after you've done that, you can then tribute him off with one of the Infernoid monsters, banish a card from your opponent's graveyard, and then swing in with the 2 monsters that he pointed to, which can be a good way of getting game. And speaking of getting game, we've got the 1 access code talker to go with the Selene. It's just a good way of closing out games. Okay, so concluding Infernoids. Infernoids are a difficult one in order to kind of rate the relevance, the meta relevance of the deck. They've got some hugely useful tools. You've got Monster Negate, Spell Trap Negate, Destruction, Bounce, Spin, all of the above. However, the RNG factor, the randomness, makes it very bang or bust. So I think you're either going to sweep your opponent away, or they're kind of just going to stomp all over you, and you won't hit one of the spell cards that kind of fuels your graveyard. So with that in mind, it might be a mean, kind of rating, but it's a 3 for me. I think that if you're really going to play this deck, I think that the new pot card is kind of the way to go. And again, that's a huge ramp up in terms of price, but it's one of the decks that kind of really kind of needs to hit certain cards, and that's where that consistency boost is really good. In terms of fun factor, I would say it's pretty fun. I think again, it can be frustrating when you don't hit those hands, especially when you know how good the deck can be. But I think that when it goes off, you feel like it's kind of like that light swarm kind of randomness just adds an extra kind of flair to the deck. So it's a 4 for the fun factor. In terms of cost, this deck is quite expensive. So I've estimated at about $570 from the TCG play. A lot of that is kind of like superfluous, so you've got the infinite permanents, you've got the access code talker kind of package and stuff like that. So the main core of the deck is not that bad if you wanted to build a budget version. So, what do you think of Infernoids? Are they too hot to handle, or just a withering flame? Let me know, and check out the channel if you'd like to see some more profiles.